It's December 22nd, 2024, and time for another installment in my journal, this one taken straight from our bettertrom.com website. It's a special message for Scientologists, whether you are a church member or practice independently. For those of you who don't know what TROM is, it stands for the Resolution of the Mind, and was developed by Dennis Stevens as a Scientology alternative. It's not my intent to convert Scientologists to TROM. My public consists of non-Scientologists or former Scientologists who've sworn to never go back. I have yet to correspond with anyone who is an active member, at least not anyone who would tell me they were. If someone contacted me and identified as a member, rather than get into some silly argument about whether or not what I do is legitimate tech, I'd simply tell them that if they are happy with the church, then TROM is not for them. I am more respectful to those who actively practice Scientology as members of the church than they would be to me if I told them I practice TROM. And it's sad that there can't be mutual respect between TROMers and Scientologists, but that lack of mutual respect is more on your side than mine. Consider that before writing someone off as a squirrel without knowing a thing about the tech they practice. Chances are a TROMer knows Scientology better than you know TROM. And on that note, if you are a Scientologist in good standing with the church, happy with the church, and have no intention of ever leaving, then now's the time to stop listening to me now so you won't have to see the ethics officer just for looking into TROM. I'll give you a moment to pause this video while you browse for another video. Alright, now. If you've decided to continue listening either because what I said doesn't apply to you, or it does and you're brave enough to continue, then congratulations. You've taken your first step towards greater spiritual freedom without sacrificing your personal freedom or jeopardizing your financial security. Once I broke with the Church of Scientology and looked for a new spiritual practice, I read up on a few of them. I won't mention all of them by name, because I don't want to openly criticize anyone or anything in particular. Other than TROM, I was not impressed. What was the difference? Aside from TROM being the most accurate in its theory and the most effective in its application. Dennis Stevens practiced Dianetics right from the start in 1950. He was a friend of L. Ron Hubbard's and also a student on the original, in-person St. Hilt's special briefing course. He was not some half-trained, disaffected ex-Scientologist chock full of MUs looking to make a fast buck on what he knew or thought he knew. Dennis knew his tech, and he never made any money on TROM. Dennis developed TROM to be integrated into the subject of Scientology. His intent was to help Ron, not to rival him. If only Dennis had the chance to share his findings with Ron, there would be no divide between TROMers and Scientologists. We'd just all be Scientologists, practicing both Ron's tech and Dennis's tech that Ron put his name on. Still, I'm glad Dennis never got the chance to tell Ron about TROM like he intended, because he discovered how to handle the bank without an auditor. What this means to the TROMer is there is no one to answer to, and no one you have to pay. Now if that isn't freedom, I don't know what is. But this doesn't align with Ron's and the church's salvation for sale agenda, now does it? Ron insisted handling the bank solo was impossible. Dennis knew better. And I now know better too and can vouch for his tech. While I am no L. Ron Hubbard or Dennis Stevens, I am a former auditor and course supervisor, which is nothing to sneeze at. I have thoroughly studied TROM, practiced TROM, advised others on how to practice TROM, and I am 100% certain of it. I didn't blow from the church because of my evil deeds and misunderstoods. I just got sick of the runaround. Chasing the carrot of spiritual freedom, playing a game where the rules continually changed. I had psychiatric treatment as a teenager. Some hospitalization for an eating disorder that involved counseling and medications. But as you know, this means I can't get auditing. I'm an illegal PC. I could get training, I could volunteer to work for the church for free, but no holding the cans for me. It's the Scientology equivalent of the love of your life telling you that they just want to be friends. I played along with the church's game of getting my auditor training in hopes that someday I could get auditing myself. I became a course supervisor and worked for the church for free in the hopes it would impress them enough to change their minds. Then golden age of tech came along, rendering my certificates invalid. I would have to start all of my auditor training all over again and pay for it myself. Believe it or not, I still stayed with Scientology after that, mostly just reading the books, attending events, socializing with other Scientologists, but didn't purchase any more services. What I've said so far about why I left the church isn't even the whole story. I've given a reasonable explanation without revealing anything that isn't known about them already. Putting an end to Scientology is not my purpose line. I'd rather see them reform and become the true benefit to mankind they should be rather than CNN's latest special on crime and conspiracy. It's not likely you're ever going to see Scandals of the Church by Alison Tandry on the bookshelves, unless the church gives me reason for it. They've left me alone about Trom, and because of that, I may criticize the church now and then, but I don't attack them. Not like Leah Raymond, Chris Shelton, or CNN. Try asking any of those three what a Scientologist should do to attain spiritual freedom if they decide to leave the church, and you're not going to get an answer. They care more about hurting the Church of Scientology than they do about helping you. If you are an illegal PC, you can stop playing the church's game of training and petitioning, or what I like to call Mother May I for your spiritual freedom, as if your freedom is something you would have to ask anyone for in the first place, and just take care of yourself with Trom. It's the most liberating experience ever. If you left the church because you did your training prior to golden age of tech and you feel it was all a waste of time because your certificates are no longer any good, I assure you, it was no waste. Your academy training will make studying Trom easier. For whatever reasons you want to leave the church, whether you're an illegal PC, had your certificates cancelled because of golden age of tech, you've run out of money, or cognited that yes, it is possible for someone to come up with something as good as or better than Scientology, you've come to the right place on YouTube. The best way for you to transition from Scientology to Trom is to watch the Trom vs. Scientology series on this channel. I made it just for people like you, who are fed up with the church but still want to have a spiritual practice they can trust. The ideal video to start with, and maybe the only one you'll need to convince yourself, is Returning in Dianetics versus Time-Breaking in Trom, which demonstrates how you can conquer the reactive mind without need of an auditor. The rest you can watch or not watch according to how curious you are. Be a Scientologist if it suits you. Learn Trom if you dare. The choice is yours, and I have no vested interest in either outcome. But I do think you should have a choice, nonetheless. Thanks for listening. I'm Alison Tandry. We are DIY Salvation. Don't just use your mind. Resolve it.